Leeds aren't Man City, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They are not even Man United.
Hang on, stop the press. That's why you watch this podcast, for us to tell you that Leeds United are not Manchester City. Welcome to the latest episode of Yahoo Footballing Weekly. I'm very excited about this one. With me, Yahoo columnist Neil Humphreys.
And me, Yahoo editor Keong. And him, finally somebody who's more famous than us.
Maybe.
Two-time SEA Games gold medalist, marathoner, Soh Rui Yong. Welcome to the show.
Hi guys, thanks for having me on the show. I think this was like half a year in the making, right?
Yeah.
Last time I was in Singapore, this didn't work out. So I'm very glad to be on the show this time.
Right.
Very glad to have you. He's been very kind to say very nice things about our podcast. So let's say some nice things about him briefly. No, he's one of our great hopes for the SEA Games. You're back in the Singapore squad representing our nation. What's your target? What's your plans? What are you doing? Tell us whatever you can.
Well, I mean, this is quite a special circumstance for me because I'm not competing in the marathon, which I kind of made my mark in.
That's too easy. Too easy for him.
Not easy at all. I don't recommend running marathons. But yeah, this time I'm just doing the 5,000 meters and the 10,000 meters.
Just.
I'm doing a 6-week build-up as opposed to in the past when I had 3 to 6 months. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but put my nose in it, work hard, and try my best to compete for medals. I always say to my fellow athletes who are a bit less than confident, if you feel like you're not going to get a medal, don't get on the plane. We got to be there to compete, not just show up.
That's the spirit.
Are you sure you're Singaporean? With this kind of, no, I'm going to win medals.
No, we're not going to just do our best. Go there and try our best.
I thought we just turn up, try our best. Come on, I love it.
No, that's a very good point because I think reporters have said, we really hate it when we ask every athlete and everyone tells us we just try our best. We don't even need to interview them. We can just write the quote for them.
Yeah.
We just try our best. But I mean, I know. But I understand why, because any athlete that steps out of their comfort zone to say, I'm going for medals, I'm going for big targets, they usually get written off as being arrogant or whatever the case might be. We're just in this culture where you're expected to, just sit down and shut up and just do the job in school. And for the men, we go on to NS, so you really sit down and shut up or you get into trouble.
I can't wait. This is part 1. I can't wait to get to part 2 when we talk about local football, local sports. So make sure you come back after this episode for part 2. But part 1 first. I got to get this off my chest. I've just discovered he's a Liverpool fan, you know that. Our director behind Jay, also a Liverpool fan. And now I've just discovered he's a Liverpool fan as well.
For 20 years.
Completely outnumbered now.
The right team to support.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see about that at the end of the season. We'll see about
Always
that.
right.
All right, but we're not starting with those Reds. We'll go with the other Reds. Arsenal went over to East London, 2-2 with West Ham. What did you think?
Well, it's the second consecutive match which they let a 2-0 lead slip. So this one might be even more damaging than what happened at Anfield. So right now, I mean, they are just 4 points ahead of Man City, although they have played one more game. And they will go to Etihad to play at Man City. There is absolutely no margin for error for them now.
Yep.
They cannot afford to lose any of their next 9 matches, I think. So, and not just Man City. They have Newcastle, Chelsea, Brighton coming up. Not easy games either. And, its pressure is on. There's no doubt about it. Pressure is on for Arsenal. They really want... They used to have a comfortable lead. Now it's all gone. But now we see how well they respond to this.
Absolutely. Rui Yong, mental fatigue. I've seen that phrase several times. They dropped 4 points in 2 games, as you mentioned, Liverpool, West Ham. Mental fatigue, is it such a thing as a professional athlete yourself? Does that really play a part? Because if you look at some of the players, I just wrote down a couple that stood out to me. I thought Partey sort of went off the boil. Odegaard went off the boil. You could actually see it manifest itself. First 20 minutes, they were unstoppable. Second half, they just seemed to hit this psychological wall. And you're an athlete. Is there something in that?
Certainly. I mean, obviously, in football, it's a team sport and track is an individual sport. But there are certain similarities. I mean, in every sport, there are always talented athletes. But there's a difference between being talented and being, having that steel, that nerves of steel to really come clutch when going gets really tough or in really big games or big races. So, I mean, I think Arsenal, for many years, I've told Han Keong this, but it seems almost in their DNA to kind of slip up when the going gets tough.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate because they play really amazing football.
Yep.
like 20 years ago when I first started watching football, it was the days of Thierry Henry, Freddie Lundberg, Robert Pires, like
Invincibles.
exactly the Invincibles. But 1 year before they were the Invincibles, they actually lost to Manchester United in the run-in, even though they had like a 5-point lead with 8 games remaining. So right from then, and then after that you had 2011 when that team had Van Persie and these guys, and they had a lead. They were fighting with Manchester United again. Last 8 games, dropped a ton of points. Only won 1 in 8 games or something like that.
Yeah.
And then happened again in 2016 against Leicester. Arsenal was the closest challenger. That year, all the big teams didn't play well. Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, all didn't play well. And Arsenal couldn't overcome Leicester. That was actually their best chance in the last 20-odd years.
That is research, man.
Which is why, as we said on this podcast, it's not that we're being cruel to Arsenal. It's just that in previous seasons, Leicester City and other clubs didn't have a Manchester City juggernaut coming after them, in the rearview mirror, relentlessly. They're not just beating teams, they're steamrolling teams with that freakish Norwegian up front who just can't be stopped. And, speaking of mental strength, mental fatigue, I have to give a shout out. I wrote a column about it, which you can read on all Yahoo platforms. Bukayo Saka. Now, he broke my heart on the weekend. I have to say that. I mean, I talked about this in my column. I still get kind of angry on Steven Gerrard's behalf for the title slip. Because a man's career should not be defined by a single loss. It wasn't even a loss of concentration. It was just a slip. It happens to anybody. And I really, really hope this doesn't happen to Saka. It's already happened twice.
Yeah.
The man's 21 years old. He's still a novice, in comparative terms. He had the one in the Euro final and suffered horrendous racial abuse as a consequence. Now he's had it again. And sure enough, there was racist abuse online within hours of the game finishing. It just seemed to me so cruelly unfair. Of all the players in the Arsenal lineup, he was probably the least deserving of having that kind of asterisk, if you like, on his season. I felt so sorry for him.
I do too. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to take that high pressure penalty. They were already 2-0. They were already 2-all, level on 2-all.
And he'd scored his previous 4 in a row against top teams, despite missing in the Euro final. So, mental pressure's not an issue for him.
Yeah, but what's it with players missing and going wide like Salah did?
Salah's doing it as well,
he's doing it as well. Something's wrong. Maybe it's the technique or whatever. But anyway, I agree with you. It's like, Could it be a case of the pressure building up so much that they want to try to place the ball so wide so that the goalkeeper doesn't get it, and then
could be
that works against it. So, but well, this is the end of the season and all the pressure's on.
I just don't want it to be the defining moment. I mean, I hope they lose another game 6-0 if you like, because at least people will focus on the 6-0 and not on Saka, because like they do with Gerrard's slip and Roberto Baggio's penalty miss. You just think of these key moments that individual talents don't deserve.
How do athletes like this get over this bad?
I think it's incredible. I mean, like 21 years old. That by many measurements, that is incredibly, incredibly young. So to have that kind of pressure, and not just of your club, but Arsenal has a global fan base.
And not the England national team as well.
Of fans,
playing the mighty West Ham.
It's a lot of pressure for a young player to take. And to think that I was actually surprised that Saka is having that pressure, because I mean he's been their best player, I think,
by far.
But in situations like this, you kind of want someone who has more experience, like more nerves of steel, to kind of like just put your foot through it if you're nervous and like smash it maybe into the net.
You're right. But maybe that's where Arsenal lacked a bit. They don't have that really veteran guy who could somehow calm down the whole team.
Well, it's
Odegaard tried. Saka cannot calm anybody down because he's a hothead himself.
It's that
Saka. I mean,
it's true. It's that Gary Neville argument again. He always brings it back to personal experience. The first year he won the title, he admits it was Roy Keane, it was Peter Schmeichel, it was Eric Cantona. It was these players that carried them over the line. He said, the lactic acid build-up in those young bodies as they were getting towards the title, it was overwhelming. They were shattered. They just weren't up for it. So they needed those old heads, those old guard players. Arsenal haven't got that. You give that penalty to Alan Shearer he smashes it in. You give it to Harry Kane, he smashes it in. You give it to anyone, Haaland's another good example. You give it to anyone in that Arsenal side, and you're a bit, I don't know. But I will say, I mean, I just wrote it here. 22 EPL goal contributions this season, Saka. Only Erling Haaland and Harry Kane have more. He's the youngest Arsenal player ever to reach that number in a single season. I hope he comes good. I hope
Arsenal comes good for the sake of him.
Right, well, getting on to that, this is where I think their problem is. Central defence.
Wow.
You watch that West Ham game and the Liverpool game. Rob Holding, God bless him. He's a honest, hard-working trier. And my God, he tried my patience in that game. He made Mikel Antonio look like Pele. Now, I've been watching Antonio for years. Many things he is. Pele, he is not. All right, let's just get it out there. I like Antonio. He's a workhorse. Sometimes he just looks like a horse.
Is he really a Hammer fan?
But for that game, he had Antonio was pulling him all over the place. He's a solid defender. Balls into the box, he'll clear all day long. What Antonio did very smartly, he dragged him all over the place, and he just lost his shape, his rhythm. Saliba needs to come back. They're saying that Saliba should be fit for the Manchester City game. If you get Saliba back, if you get Zinchenko back, they've got a chance. Without those two, I can't see anything but a Man City victory. Never mind a draw. I just see a Man City victory.
Yeah.
What
do you think?
Yes. What do you think? Let us know at
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, and Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
And now we move to the part of the show where I'm completely outvoted, outnumbered. This is the part where I take a snooze, where the three rabid Liverpool fans, including the director, take over the show. All right, get it out of the way. 6-1. What did you think? Was it 6-1? It was, right? I lost count. 6-1 against Leeds. Yeah, the mighty relegation-threatened Leeds.
Mighty Leeds.
I thought it was funny because, I mean, Han Keong would agree with me, but I think Liverpool just need to ration their goals a bit better.
We won 9-0, we won 7-0, now we won 6-1. Can you spread the goals out like 1-0, 1-0, 1-0? We'll take all 1-0.
If you look at the goal difference, Liverpool is actually fourth.
Yeah.
That is behind
Man City,
Arsenal, City, Spurs. And then fourth is Liverpool. Manchester United actually has a goal difference of 9 only. Yeah, but they are a lot higher, obviously. But Liverpool kind of wrecked that with the 7-0 a couple weeks ago. But Liverpool is like 8th, but yeah, like I said,
how much credit or credence do you actually give that performance? Because I saw the highlights. Second goal, Leeds collapsed. They were playing bowling pins.
Leeds aren't Man City, that's for sure. They are not even Man United.
Hang on, stop the press. That's why you watch this podcast, for us to tell you that Leeds United are not Manchester City. All the insight.
Yeah, but you take what you can, you let Jota hasn't scored for a year, finally he breaks it, so some good signs, but obviously it's hard to get ahead of ourselves when we are in 8th. So it bodes well for the rest of the season, but this season has been like out of nowhere, we will just lose, and then so.
But Ray Young, this is what drives me mad with Liverpool. One good victory, the Man U won. Now this one. Oh, Champions League qualification is still a possibility. It's like, for heaven's sake, you're not that good. What do you think? I saw it again this morning.
Yes,
the reports were saying it's only 8 points. 8 points, is it?
8 points.
Only 8 points. What do you think?
I mean, realistically speaking, it would take consistency from Liverpool, which has been lacking the rest of the season, to magically appear in the last, 7 games?
8,
maybe
9 games, yeah.
9? Oh, there are 9 games? Okay, then maybe.
But I think it's.
And then they'll get thrashed next week, and we'll say it's over, and then they'll win by 6 the following week, and then we'll say they're back again.
But Spurs is not the bastion of consistency.
No, I think they're
either.
gone, Spurs. I think it's between Newcastle, Man U, are the two teams.
But I still think
against.
the Europa League spot, I think is fair. But the others Champions League, I don't think.
And Liverpool just looks a bit fatigued this season. Maybe it was the disappointment of losing the Champions League and the Premier League on the last
because
day.
they come to Singapore
again.
Yeah.
And then of course they lost. I thought Mane was Liverpool's like
biggest loss.
biggest loss.
I
mean, he's
agree.
incredibly consistent. I think he gets overshadowed by Mo Salah quite a lot.
Yep.
But I mean, as you can see now, without each other, neither of them are having a great season.
That's a good point.
It's a good point. Let's
But
stay with
Mane's
that.
on up for sale actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He had a scrap last week,
Uncharacteristic.
didn't he? With
Leroy Sané.
Yeah, correct. Let's stay with that. Last season's transfer cock-up. I don't think there's anything else you can call it. Recently, Jamie Carragher, for the first time, publicly criticised Liverpool's transfer policy. And I agree with him. I think most rational Liverpool fans will also agree with him regarding the Jude Bellingham fiasco. And I don't care what spin Liverpool want to put on it, it's a fiasco. From a PR standpoint, this has been absolutely farcical. Klopp never publicly says if he's tracking a player, with the exception of Bellingham. He's been going on about this kid for more than a year. He would have been perfect for Liverpool. Now it's not happening. What do you think?
So taken as an isolated decision, you can perhaps say it was sensible because right now it's evident that our midfield is gone to pieces.
Correct.
And we need several, not just one midfielder to boost for the next season. But why did it go to pieces? Why did the midfield go to pieces? Precisely because past transfer seasons, they didn't boost that midfield.
Correct.
The last season, they wanted to get Chouameni, couldn't get him. They said, okay, never mind, we'll wait for Jude Bellingham. And now they don't see it through. So now we don't get Chouameni, we don't get Bellingham, we get nothing that the fans wish for. Is a bad PR, like you say.
Yeah.
Because all the fans were like so pumped up for Bellingham. All right, we're going to wait for him. And now they say, we're giving up. Oh, everybody's like, what?
I'll even go a step further.
Yeah.
I'll say that, yes, you had to replace Mane, no doubt about that. But in the haste to buy anyone, rushing in to get Núñez and then Gakpo, when they clearly weren't players, Núñez maybe, but Gakpo was not a priority in that position. Carragher made the point, if you ask all Liverpool fans, I think they would say, take back Gakpo and put that money onto Bellingham and then we can afford him. They'll take Bellingham.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Gakpo.
Yeah.
Their transfer spending over the last 18 months-ish has not been good.
No.
Now, I know you're setting an impossibly high benchmark with Liverpool. The spending since Jurgen Klopp arrived, generally, has been extraordinary. Nobody has got close. And I include Manchester City in that. Man, you obviously forget them, right? Real Madrid, Barcelona, any club in world football, nobody has bought so effectively and so consistently well as Liverpool in the last 5 years. I think that gave them a certain, a generous goodwill amongst fans. But in the last year, just take the last year in isolation, it's been poor.
I think Luis Diaz, Núñez, all this, they were quite expensive players.
Yeah.
They haven't necessarily repaid that transfer fee. I mean, it's quite hard to adapt to the English game, obviously, coming from, I think all these guys came from the Portuguese league. It's obviously a very different standard of play week in, week out. But yeah, it is disappointing when we spend what Núñez 80 million?
85 million?
85 million, and he's had a mixed bag of games to say the least. And when I think we were a bit spoiled as well, because Mane, Firmino, Salah for years, they were very consistent, very synergic.
Exactly.
Together, and now we're kind of mixing and matching, and the midfield. Every time we start Henderson and Milner in midfield, I think it's a bit. You know that it's not going to be a very good game in midfield because I mean, all respect to these guys, I love James Milner. I think he's a really responsible role model, funny guy.
Yeah.
But him and Henderson are not going to outrun.
Now he looks like he's pulling a caravan.
So here's the stat which I find, which a bit blows my mind. We started Thiago, Fabinho, and Henderson for, I think, the match against Arsenal or whatever. These three, how many goals have they scored this season? Big, fat, 0.
Awesome. Combined, Thiago,
Fabinho,
I thought
Henderson.
I'd seen Henderson score, maybe not in the EPL.
Maybe on the league.
Yeah. Wow.
None. And, that's a big pressure. That puts a lot of pressure on youngsters like Gakpo and Núñez. not least Salah.
I mean, they're all defensive midfielders.
Yeah,
right,
they're
kind of,
all
yeah.
they're not known for scoring. But if you want
Yeah.
a team to be successful, the midfield should contribute. But
Correct, which brings us to the next point, final point about Liverpool. The always entertaining elephant in the room, Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Hey, he's
and
becoming a
where
midfielder,
does this man play? Suddenly he's gone from a defender who cannot defend to England's great hope in midfield. I don't know if it's Klopp caving or it's out of, I mean, Klopp doesn't cave to anybody or out of desperation, but he played much further forward.
and in midfield,
Against Leeds. Yeah. So he was still nominally a wing back, but he almost looked like an old-fashioned wing half from the old days where a wing half would be a player that would cut inside and constantly roam towards the centre circle, which is what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he looked fantastic. He looked like the old Trent Alexander-Arnold, which means the debate is going to start all over again. All right, positives first. Positives first. He can direct play when he cuts inside. His passing is second to none. Negatives. He doesn't link up with Salah so much on the right wing and he doesn't cross as much. Biggest negative, you've still got that big defensive hole every time he steps out. What do they do?
I think this is probably I mean, now they got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Kind of, so it's like, okay, why not?
Do you see his future in midfield?
I think it's an option. It's a nice option that, when things are going rough for him, when he's being targeted by the opponent teams, move him in, make the opponents a bit confused about where he's going to be. That's a nice alternative, but I think it might take a bit of time for him to hone that this kind of formation. And the thing is that a lot of talk has been during the off season. Liverpool are trying to get somebody who can compete with him for the right back position, somebody who can be consistent enough to challenge him at the right back position, so that there's at least a more conventional right back who can at least defend better than him. Yeah. So we'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap this thing up by looking at managers. Very briefly, managers. We've got three struggling managers. We've got Christian Stellini at Spurs. We've got Frank Lampard at Chelsea. Dean Smith at Leicester. All brought in last minute to fix the club, to keep them up, or move them up. Interim managers and so on. Is it working?
I actually asked my own coach about this because he's also a football fan. Stephen Kwek is a Manchester United fan. Yeah. So I mean, when they changed all these managers with like 10 games to go, right? I sent him an article. I was like, why do people do this? Like, is it going to have any effect last 10 games? I mean, he did point out an interesting stat, which is that, in the past, some of these clubs, when you change a manager, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
You might
the honeymoon
go on,
period.
so 3 or 4 games honeymoon period, where they get good results and that can turn the season
Roy
around.
Hodgson has won 3 in a row at Crystal Palace.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, 3 in a row.
Well, Sean Dyche, she just won. She's now struggling after winning against Everton. So there's a lot of So what I feel is that if you want to change a manager, don't change it, like you say, so late in the season. And expect miracles to happen, like Lampard at Chelsea, like they said.
And he's been at Chelsea before. They know that they know what
They knew he was no good the first time. They brought him back to be no good the second time. Fantastic. But a good example would be Gary O'Neill, who's doing a fantastic job at Bournemouth.
He got a home season, almost a whole season.
That's my point.
Yeah,
so if you're going to do it, they replaced Scott Parker in late August.
Yeah.
So he's had nearly the whole season with the club. Yeah. And even though Bournemouth have been in the bottom 3 for most of the season, they didn't panic and sack a second manager. They stuck with him. He's done a great job. Gary O'Neill's took them out of the bottom 3.
Yeah.
They're playing good football, former West Ham player. And everyone is at some point. And playing very well. David Moyes, I have to say, through gritted teeth, he will probably keep West Ham up now. So there is something to be said.
Stability.
For that, in some cases, for stability. David Moyes, going to keep West Ham up probably. O'Neill, probably going to keep up Bournemouth. I don't know. But all I would say is West Ham, end of the season, say thank you very much, David Moyes. Off
Please
you
go. Please go.
And then Liverpool, you need a striker, Antonio. He's your man. Antonio.
Pele, right? You play like Pele, right?
Yeah, Antonio, the new Pele. But let us know what you think. Is Antonio the new Pele? Should we sack managers before the end of the season? And I say this every week. Can Liverpool make the top 4? No. Let us know your thoughts and comments and send them to
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo _MY on Twitter, and Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ray Yong. Absolutely outstanding. Thank you, my friend, for coming on.
Thank you.
Do stay with us. Come back for part 2, where we'll get stuck into Singapore football, the Singapore sports scene, with our SEA Games gold medalist. Don't forget to see us there soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.